It's June 1st, 2021, so it's time for another monthly update video in which I'll talk about what went on in May and what you might have missed. All of this is linked to below. If you click the show more, the video description, you'll see links to all of these sorts of things. And we'll also talk about what we've got coming up in June. A lot of cool events on the horizon. Talk about three big things that I want to highlight for all of you viewers, subscribers, people that are interested in what I'm doing. So big thing number one, I've got a new class out with Listenable called Basics of Stoic Philosophy and Practice, which you can listen to for free for 7 days if you want to. Link is right below. You can see it in the video description and check it out. It's pretty cool. Even if you know a lot about Stoicism, you might learn a few things. Big thing number two, back in April, I started a new Medium publication called Practical Rationality to aggregate my writings there. I'm doing more writing there, and I'll be, writing quite a bit this coming month. So if you want to see my longer form stuff, that is the place to go. Big thing number three, and this is something I might want a little bit of viewer suggestions about. I'm starting a new kind of podcast episode, a shorter podcast episode that'll springboard off of a passage from a philosophical text and talk about the key idea and how you can apply it in your life, why it would matter for you. These are going to be shorter than my usual podcast episodes. I don't have a good name for this yet. I'm kicking around some ideas, so I'll talk about that in the June section, but you might want to, think about what those could be called. What went on in May? Well, first of all, I finished up with my academic classes for spring. I had quite a few still extending into May, either in terms of grading or in terms of the work that I was doing. I also got back to the gym for the first time in 14 months and really felt it the first week, and then it got better after that. Been doing some writing. I'm getting prepped for my summer classes, one of which is actually starting this coming weekend. And I, as I mentioned, released that class, Basics of Stoic Philosophy and Practice, with Listenable. I'm very proud of that. It's an audio class. It's got 12 short. That means anywhere from 3.5 to 10-minute lessons, and you can learn all about some key ideas, practices, people, texts, all sorts of cool things about Stoicism. So you might want to check that out. I had quite a few events in addition to my usual, Worlds of Speculative Fiction and AMA and Half Hour Hegel and all that sort of stuff. I also participated in Stoicon X Military and gave a short talk, linked to below, about the nature of genuine courage, which is a really important topic in Stoicism that a lot of people get mixed up about, especially within professions like the military. So that was a clarificatory thing, but it's useful for anybody in any walk of life. As I mentioned, we did do our Worlds of Speculative Fiction. We finished with R. Scott Bakker's Prince of Nothing trilogy, looking at the last book, The Thousandfold Thought. I had quite a few people after that saying, can you go on and do the next 4 books in the series? And I said, well, we just devoted a quarter of the year to R. Scott Bakker. We do have to get to some other writers as well, so maybe down the line sometime we'll see. AMA, my Ask Me Anything, a lot of good questions, a lot of good discussions, hopefully some good answers. I also did a political theory and practice discussion focused specifically on one of the most controversial topics within Aristotle's works, the notion of natural slavery and masters. Long story short, Aristotle actually does think that most slavery is against nature, immoral, unjust, but he does hold out some room for natural slavery, and that got abused by slaveholders in the New World, as well as in other places. So you may want to check that out. We had a really great discussion there. It didn't get veer off into any bad directions with trolls or anything like that. We also had our classic metal class with Scott Terulli. This time we talked about German heavy metal from the 1970s into the mid-80s. So, of course, the Scorpions, Accept, but all sorts of other bands as well that you might not have heard of, and some cool things about the scene, as well as some philosophical implications. Rudolf Schenkner talks about the Scorpions being motivated by a philosophy of friendship. So if that's intriguing you, you want to go check that class session out. We had our half-hour Hegel Q&A and discussion sessions, both the public and the Patreon exclusive one. I did my philosophy chat for my Patreon supporters as well. And we did 2 shows of the Wisdom for Life show. That's a radio show that I do here locally. You can catch it in podcast form. You can get it in video form and see Dan, my co-host, and I recording. We talked about some really cool topics this time around. And what else? I did 2 events with my wife, Andi Shaka, on the platform Clubhouse, which is audio only. And at this point in time is Apple phone, iPhone only, not Android, unfortunately. But really cool conversations that we had about different things. We don't record them, so you want to get in on those when they're actually happening. One of the cool things is not recording it, right? What else is going on that I should talk about in May? Well, I did a lot of podcast work. Some of you may have seen me releasing the episodes on Franz Kafka's In the Penal Colony, or Michel Foucault's Technologies of the Self, or Julian the Emperor / Julian the Apostate, Orations 6 to the Uneducated Cynics, right? All of that stuff was released. But I've also been releasing episodes on Plato's Symposium, a whole sequence running through the entire work of what is arguably one of the greatest works of Western literature ever written. So that's all in the Sadler's Lectures podcast. Videos, I did quite a few, the event videos from Stoicon X, Military, Worlds of Speculative Fiction, the AMA, the Political Theory, the Classic Metal class, the Wisdom for Life shows, all of those. I managed to get 3 half-hour Hegel videos done this month and released to my Patreon supporters, not yet to the public. You'll see those coming out this month. I also did a caption contest video that was quite interesting, and I did a video on Alistair McIntyre and my connections with him and how he's influenced my thought in that series on philosophical commitments and phases and stuff like that, developments. And people seem to really like that, so that's pretty cool. I've also been remastering my Epictetus Enchiridion videos where I apply that half-hour Hegel approach, doing a very close reading, line by line, of Epictetus's Enchiridion. So if you missed those, you might want to go back if you're interested in a classic Stoic text. I did a Sadler's Stories about my cats that I used to have a long time ago and how their mother gave them to me as when they were kittens. And I got one book review done of a book, A History of Anger, which I gave a kind of mixed review to. What else? Core concept videos. You might have seen the Gilles Deleuze videos on Bartleby or the formula, and a lot of people got into those. So that's what went on in May. All right, what is coming up now in the month of June? Well, a lot of things going on. I'm going to continue going back to the gym. I've got, as I mentioned, 2 academic classes, one from Milwaukee Area Technical College starting this weekend, another one starting later in June for Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. I'll talk a little bit more about that one, I think, in just a bit, because that one's a little bit, the MATC one is just right out of the box ethics class. The other one's a really cool intro to philosophy class that I'm doing. But let's talk about events first, right? So there's another Stoicon X coming up on the 5th. That is this Saturday. All times that I'm giving here are in Central Time, so you want to check your time zones, right? At 11:15, my wife Andi Shaka and I will be doing a joint presentation as part of the Stoicon X Women Conference, Paths to Flourishing. That goes on all day, but we're doing our presentation at 11:15 a.m. So if you want to get in on that and hear it, then you definitely want to, register for it. Link is below. You can check it out. Later on, just a little bit later on that day, that is the 5th, at 12 p.m. Central Time, I'll be doing my monthly AMA, that is Ask Me Anything session. So you may want to get in on that. On the 9th at 5 p.m., I'll have my Hegel Q&A and discussion session, which I offer thanks to the patronage of my half-hour Hegel project supporters. It's open to the public, so you don't have to actually have read Hegel's Phenomenology in order to participate. It's up to you to pop in, and we'll talk some Hegel or German idealism or philosophy in general. Then on the 10th, we'll be doing another Clubhouse at 1 p.m., my wife and I, Andi Shaka. It's called Greg and Andi Ramble On. So we can talk about just about anything, and we never know who's going to show up. So check that out if you've got Clubhouse. On the 12th, we will be shifting to a new author and new series for Worlds of Speculative Fiction. These books right here, which, by the way, somebody gifted me for my 50th birthday last year. We're looking at the World of Tears series, and these are 6 novels. They're all pretty short, less than 200 pages, since this entire volume is 544. We're doing, this is about volume 2. We're doing volume 1 this time around. Actually, I think that one's even shorter, 443. So these are a quick read, really great, very influential within the world of sci-fi and fantasy. You definitely want to read them, and you definitely want to join me for the event, which will be happening on the 12th starting at 12 p.m. We start with a video premiere, and then after that we have a Zoom session for some more in-depth conversation about the works. On the 19th at 12 p.m., we'll be having classic metal class. We haven't yet decided what the topic is going to be for this month. I've got to talk with Scott about what we want to delve into. Do we want to do more music history or something much more philosophically focused or something else? Also on the 19th at 2 p.m., I'll be doing my philosophy chat with Patreon supporters. Definitely want to become a Patreon supporter. It's available at a certain tier of support. The 21st through the 23rd, I am going to be virtually at the Aristotle and Aristotelian Tradition Conference hosted at Marquette, just down the road from me. And it's going to be me and my good friend and colleague, Harold Kavli, presenting a paper on proiresis as a cause in Aristotle, Epictetus, Alexander of Aphrodisias, and Simplicius. So some pretty high-powered metaphysics and philosophy of action there on our part. On the 24th at 1 p.m., we will be having another Clubhouse. That's Andi and I rambling on. And on the 24th again at 6 p.m., Milwaukee Stoic Fellowship, we are going to be discussing Cicero's conception of the 4 roles or characters or personae, a really cool thing to talk about. And then finally on the 27th, that's a Sunday at 12 p.m., we'll be doing the next political theory and practice discussion. That is going to be on Fyodor Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor chapter of the Brothers Karamazov. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you definitely want to pop in for that. I'm still going to be doing some more video work, right? I want to get my half-hour Hegels cranked out and also release those to the public. I've got a lot of books yet to review. I'm going to do some more personal videos, probably some Sadler stories, another philosophical development and commitment one, I think probably on philosophy as a way of life. We'll do another caption contest that we just actually started back in May, and maybe we'll do another one for June as well. And you should core concept videos. I'm going to be doing Mills on Liberty in part because I'm teaching that coming up in the Intro to Philosophy class. I've also got some videos I need to shoot on Foucault's The Subject and Power, and we'll see what other core concept stuff I can get done. I should talk a little bit about the intro class, but let me first tell you about another video that I'm going to be releasing fairly shortly. So I mentioned the Basics of Stoic Philosophy and Practice class. I'm going to shoot a video specifically about that, telling people what, in broad strokes what's in that class, and then they can get an idea of whether they want to check out Listenable or not. But going back to the intro class, I'm doing something a little bit innovative this time. Instead of just trying to do like, let's hit on the main areas of philosophy and compress all this into 6 weeks. These students of mine at MyAd are artists and designers. They're not going to be philosophy majors, but I could turn them into philosophy junkies who are going to keep doing lifelong learning. And that's the goal of the class, is to get them hooked and to offer them resources. So we're going to do a lot of stuff that I don't ordinarily do. For example, we're going to talk about trolley problems quite a bit, and we're going to read Philippa Foot and Judith Thompson's pieces, and we're going to look at memes about it and discuss that sort of stuff. I'm kicking around using John Wisdom's article Gods and the university discussion that took place in philosophy of religion. We're doing Mills on Liberty to talk about lifestyle and the marketplace of ideas and free speech. And we'll be doing a lot of other stuff like that as well. So I'm not quite sure what else I might shoot on that, but there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out. The last thing I suppose I should talk about is podcasts. So as I mentioned, I'm trying to do a new kind of podcast. I'll be doing episodes, like my normal podcast, and then on the side, I'm going to do these shorter episodes as well that I'm going to record here. And those are going to be designed primarily to be like things that somebody can pick up and use right away to help themselves out, to apply philosophy within their ordinary day and life and relationships and all of that. And I still don't have a good name for it. I thought about Sadler's Snippets, but I don't really like that. Or Sadler's Shorts. I'm not really that sold on that either. Most of the cool names are already taken for that sort of thing. So I got to come up with an idea for it. But anyway, stay tuned. There will be some of those things coming out. I'm also going to be continuing on with the sequence on Plato's Symposium. We are about halfway through at this point. And after that, I'm going to be doing podcast episodes that I need for my ethics class on W.D. Ross's, The Right and the Good, Plato's Republic Book 2, the part about, the Ring of Gyges and ego. Do some convert some videos into podcast episodes on Ayn Rand because I use her in my classes. So that's probably going to be a little controversial. People will be wondering, have I become an objectivist? Because that always comes up whenever I do any Rand stuff. The answer is no. I'm just using it as teaching tools in my class. That's pretty much it for the month, but it already sounds pretty packed. Again, those 3 big things, if you want to get in on them, new class, Listenable, Basics of Stoic Philosophy and Practice. Check out my Medium, where I'm going to be doing a lot more long-form writing. And then we've got those short podcast episodes coming up. Hope you can join me at some of these online events, and I'll see you in the month ahead. Hope you have a great month and finish out the first half of 2021 way better than we did the first half of 2020.